Let's get groovy, baby, as Michael Myers makes his shagadelic return to cinemas as Austin Powers.
Wait, Matt.
The other Michael Myers is back to terrorize Jamie Lee Curtis all over again in the new Halloween. Also, Jack Black is back and ready to get his bumps goosed in the new sequel, Goosebumps 2. That and more in today's episode of The Real Review, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. Everybody, I am here with Joel. Why do people call them goose pimples? Cunningham.
I don't know. I've wondered that myself, and I don't think I've come up with a good reason for it.
The term goose pimples gives me more like, ugh.
It kind of isn't, scary,
it's gross,
weird.
It's grosser.
Who would be close enough to a goose to know that they had pimples? And I don't know.
That's weird to me. I don't like that terminology. Let's just stick with Goosebumps. Thank you, R.L. Stein, for not using goose pimples
thank you
as
very
your
much.
book.
That would have been a much less
lineage.
successful series, I have a feeling.
Exactly.
Although it does sound, no.
No,
Yeah.
it's just weird.
Yeah, it's just weird.
It's just weird. Anyway, who am I today, Joel?
I am here with Matt. Looks like he just got back from audition for the Commando remake.
Yeah.
Hey. Ew.
It's so exciting. It's actually a Halloween day.
Is it?
It's Halloween. Tomorrow's
tell.
Halloween, right? It's one of those days.
Yes, it's coming
and
up.
we're talking about Halloween. It's thematic.
Yeah.
You get it? Do you get it? I get it. We get it. It's awesome. Anyways.
I wish I had known. I would have brought a costume, but I didn't know we were doing costume day, Matt.
Yeah, you know what? I don't tell you these things sometimes.
Sometimes
I just show up in costume, and it's not even Halloween.
Yeah.
It's like April.
We're here at the studio. I could have grabbed a tambourine or a drumstick and been like a failing musician. I don't know.
That could have been. You could have been it.
I could have been it. Yeah.
It's
I'm going to
okay.
be here as a podcast reviewer.
That's
How about that?
fantastic. I love it. 5 stars out of 10.
Nailed it.
Yep. Or 5 stars.
5 stars. Yeah. 5 out of 10.
Anyways,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining in on the show. The Real Review, if you've never been a part of this and this is your first time to this, let me give you a quick breakdown. Basically, we have 2 trains of thought here and how we approach reviewing films. I'm a little bit more lighthearted, maybe fun, emotional. I want to get something out of a movie. If it's more fun, something like that, I'll enjoy it more. I tend to overlook a lot of little nitpicky things and like critical elements of a film.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, kind of do the exact opposite. Sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, we dabble in each other's territories a little bit, but you tend to be a little bit more critical, analytical, kind of deep dive into the things I've never even heard of in a movie. And
You know.
yeah, and at the end, that's what we do, is we bring it all together and give you a real synopsis, a real review of sorts on the film. So today we have a couple of those movies, Halloween and Goosebumps 2, Halloween-themed films. What do you know?
Good stuff.
What do you know?
What do you know? It's a spooky episode.
Spooky episode. Anyways, Joel, why don't you tell the lovely people how they can get connected with us?
Sure, there's a couple of great ways you can get connected to the podcast. First of all, you can check us out, realreviewmedia.com. We also have our Facebook, which is facebook.com/realreviewmedia. We'd love to get connected on both of those platforms with you. Additionally, Twitter and Instagram, both at Real Review Media. And then finally, we'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives. Tell us what your costume was this year. I don't care. Just send us an email. Let us know what's going on. realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Did you see my Instagram post, who I was for Halloween? My Halloween costume I did?
No.
Oh, dude, I was
Sorry.
I was Lee Abbott, which is John Krasinski's character from A Quiet Place. It's
Wow.
pretty good. It's pretty good.
That is pretty good. So were you just walking around constantly going,
I had a sweet beard,
Like shushing
and
people?
yeah, it was good
they
times.
start talking to you and you just be like,
Yeah, I'm like, stop,
stop.
be quiet. There's aliens and they eat you.
I love you.
Anyways. Well, that wraps that up. Thanks for telling people how they can get connected with us.
My pleasure.
Let's go ahead and dive into the first one here, because I didn't get to see what you got to see. So I didn't get to see the Goosebumps 2, but you got to see Goosebumps 1 and 2.
Correct.
It just made sense for you, I think, maybe. And I got to see Halloween. Now, here's the funny thing about Halloween, before we get into that, is that there are 1,000 sequels to the original.
Yeah. There's one in space. I mean, for goodness sakes.
That's Jason.
Oh, Jason. Yeah.
That's Friday.
I don't know my scary movies
like-
very well.
that's like-
I should say.
It's like
get-go. Yeah,
like Jason X
Jason
or something.
X, yeah, the one where they go to space. Yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry. What's the one where they... Oh, yeah. So Michael Myers, I will say, has been pretty well secluded into his own series of films. Like Jason got brought into the one with Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I like scary movies, and I've respected what was originally done with the original Halloween, John Carpenter and all that fun stuff back in the day. I was never really a huge fan, though. And it might just be because I didn't really get into horror movies until it's kind of a different era. Like I remember like one of the first scary movies I thought was like really scary at the time, but I didn't watch scary movies a lot till then, was Scream. And I was like, oh man, this is so scary. But it's funny too and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the original Halloween, I have a respect for it. I don't have this like I think it's an amazing film. I do respect, I honor where it comes from. But what's interesting about this new Halloween is that it erases all the sequels. It erases all the sequels and takes place. It's basically the first sequel now is what it's doing. It's retconning.
It's like 30 years after, like probably
40,
more than 40 years after
40 years
the
after
the original. Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis returns and all that fun stuff. I'll just break it down. So Laurie Strode confronts her longtime foe, Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Halloween night 4 decades ago. This is directed by David Gordon Green and also written by David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. Interesting, right?
He is getting more and more writing credits.
Yes.
It's interesting.
It
He's
is
really made
interesting.
this switch, I think, from acting at the moment to more writing.
Yeah. And then you have, obviously we have Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, Andy Matichak, James Jude Courtney, Nick Castle, Halleck Bigner, Will Patton, and a number of other people. But let me say, just to start off, I like this movie. I did not love it.
Yeah.
But what I think it did a couple of things, and I've seen a lot of the sequels to come after come after the original one.
Yeah.
There's a one where like Busta Rhymes is in it, and he like does like this karate roundhouse kick to Michael Myers.
I saw that clip. Yeah, and it just like knocks him
and I'm
back.
like, what?
Yeah,
anyways, stuff like that. That's early 2000s, late 90s for you. But anyways, so it brings it back to a little bit more of a serious level. I like that it kind of retcons and takes it back to just what happened in that first one. And Michael Myers is scary, like that character, and this movie he is scary in this movie, just like as a lot of people were scared of him in that first movie.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably one of the best elements. There's actually this whole like extended sequence of kind of him, quote unquote, getting his mojo back, kind of a thing.
Yeah, figuring out how to do his kills, I guess.
Well, not figuring it out, but like he doesn't start the movie with his mask.
Oh, okay.
Let's say that. Let's say that.
Yeah.
There's even a scene in the trailer where these two like podcasters are like showing him his old mask, and like all the people in this insane asylum or whatever are like freaking out. And there's this whole extended scene where he gets it, he's trying to get it back, and
he gets it back.
it's
I mean,
scary.
you've seen him in the...
It is scary, dude.
Okay.
That was intense stuff.
Yeah.
Really intense stuff. And the way that this movie is filmed, it's very, very scary. I will say this.
Was it a lot of jumps?
No, not a lot of jump scares. I would actually say it's more just really intense moments with like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be like on the edge of your seat, but it wasn't like a lot of like rah rah. Yeah. Which I actually like that element of it. There were a couple of like jump-y moments, but well earned, I guess,
Yeah.
But overall, I liked it. It got it had some twists in it. Like one at the end I thought was going to ruin the movie for me. I was like, are they really going this route? And then it turns out they aren't going that route. I was like, okay, good. Thank you for not doing that. It would have been awful.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, it turns from like a horror film into just more of just kind of a straight up thriller, as opposed to just like a old school slash where you're just trying to run away from a guy the whole time.
Right.
There's like revenge elements of it. And you see that in the trailer with Jamie Lee Curtis. Like she's been waiting for him to break out of prison for 40 years so she can kill him and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, I thought everything was really well done. It had some really tense moments I really liked. I just couldn't get to love it. For some reason, the end of it bothered me a little bit. I don't like how there's kind of this abrupt ending to it. I did like that when it started off. It kind of had some like 70s vibes to it, almost a little bit. It's with the font, the way the music was set up. The music was really cool. Kind of hearing all that. It's kind of iconic, music. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily nitpick one single thing as being bad, other than just the ending just didn't feel satisfying to me.
Okay.
Obviously, it's going to be open to sequels and all that stuff because they've been talking about that. They produced this movie for $10 million.
Oh, wow.
$10 million.
Really nothing at all.
They produced it for $10 million. The first weekend, it made $78 million. That's crazy.
It's getting a sequel.
It made 33 the second weekend.
The thing is, I don't know how it's ended, so I don't know what they've left it open to option-wise.
Well, if you watch the original Halloween movies, like any of the sequels, he like dies a bunch. He quote unquote dies a bunch.
Right, yeah. And
then they always have some new way to bring him back.
Some way he always... That's kind of one of the things that I didn't really like about, I don't know, the sequels in a way. It just got old, the whole idea that he could just come back to... Like, one of the things I thought that was so awesome about the original was that, well, one, it was the first of its kind in a lot of ways. It invented the slasher genre. I mean, we had Friday the 13th that came out like 2 years after Jason, and then you had like Freddy Krueger, which came out later. This invented that genre, and it created an archetype of a character that became a caricature in itself. And then when he fell into being that caricature, it got kind of bland to me.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen all of them. I've seen the first one. The amazing thing to me about the first one especially is that it was still really well shot.
Yeah.
It's a horror movie. It's a scary movie. There's definitely some cheesy elements that haven't, aged super well. But for the first of its kind and its nature, it was really well done and put together. And he's a realistic threat, but at the same time, he's vulnerable in a way. So it kind of gives you something to root for. So when these movies started coming out where it's like, you just can't even kill him. It's like it just got silly. It's like, why do I want to put myself through that just to see this guy win and kill a bunch of people? And some people love that, don't get me wrong, but that was more me.
Right.
So,
No. I didn't see all of the sequels. I just saw, I remember H2O came out. I watched that one. That may have been the one with Busta Rhymes. I can't remember.
That's great though.
But anyways, yeah. So it wasn't spectacular. I liked it enough. It was a good Halloween movie for people that want to be thrilled towards the Halloween times.
It's weird to me they named it Halloween.
Yeah,
because it's a direct sequel to Halloween, so it's like Halloween.
And then there was another Halloween that was made by Rob Zombie,
right? Yeah, but
in the early 2000s,
which was a remake, a restart. It was like a reboot of the Halloween series.
Right.
So it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like this one is a legitimate sequel, so why didn't you call it Halloween 2 and make it
it would have been Halloween 2 again.
Yeah, or Part 2
because there were Halloween 2.
Call it Halloween Part 2 or something like that.
-A.
Yeah, now I'm like, it's just confusing because it's
Halloween 2.1.
You literally can say Halloween and mean 3 movies, one of which is actually a sequel to the original Halloween. Just what?
Halloween 2 2.0.
Halloween 2.0.
There you go.
There you go.
That's it. We've solved the mystery, you guys. We've solved the mystery.
Awesome.
But anyways, I'm gonna rate this thing. I'm gonna give it a 79.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the ending was the big thing that just kind of felt
flat. And I mean, I liked it. I liked it. I just didn't love it. Can't necessarily put my finger on one like thing in particular. Just the ending, I thought it was abrupt. I was like, wait a minute, what? And there's some things left unexplained that I wanted some closure on that I did not get. So
Halloween 2 2.0.
Yeah, Halloween 2 2.0.
There you go.
Anyways, Joel.
Part 2 of Part 1.
Joel.
Yes.
You got to see another movie.
I did.
It sounds like it was your favorite movie of the year.
Scary in its own way, Matt.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
And not because the movie had scary elements.
Okay.
I got to see Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween. This film, I will give you a brief synopsis here. 2 young friends find a magic book that brings a ventriloquist's dummy to life. That's perfect. That's the exact explanation you need for
That's
it. Directed by Ari Sandel, who's not really done a lot, and I think kind of showed in here.
Oh, okay.
You have Wendy McLendon Covey, who's pretty much your main, one of your main. She's like a side main character, Kathy Quinn, and then you have Madison Eisman, who's Sarah Quinn. She's kind of one of the main girls. Jeremy Ray Taylor is Sonny Quinn, it's her brother. The character Sam Carter is played by a kid named Khalil Harris. Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of Quinns in this movie.
Yeah, the adults I recognize, but the kids I haven't seen in anything.
One of the kids is from It.
Yeah. but I haven't seen him in a lot of other
okay.
things, is what I'm
Gotcha.
saying. So Wendy, I've seen her in a ton of stuff. Chris Parnell's in it. He's a store manager. And then Ken Jeong is in it as well. He's
yeah.
kind of like the go-to silly character now.
Yeah.
If you need a just ridiculous
Did his show
guy.
get canceled? His Dr. Ken or whatever?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't see anything about it
I never
anymore.
watched it. Actually, I tried to watch an episode of an airplane, which is done.
I like him in Community. El Tigre.
Anyway,
Okay.
no, you're fine. The bar was not very high for this film. I went into it mainly because I didn't feel like seeing Halloween, and I was with somebody else. They didn't want to see Halloween either, and so we were like, "Well, I gotta see something," and so go see Goosebumps 2. And I saw the first one, and the first one, without going too far into that rabbit trail, was weird,
Okay.
entertaining at times, kind of silly, but I felt like they did a good enough job
Okay.
making it interesting.
I gotcha.
Not gonna, break new ground in cinematic world or anything. This one, interestingly, similar to your experience, started off well enough, but really fell apart in the last quarter, somewhere around right after the middle to quarter half of the film.
I gotcha.
Quarter half.
The
last half to quarter of the film,
movie, yeah.
it really fell apart. Interestingly enough, up until the middle-ish area, you were kind of connecting with the film,
Okay.
and there were some deeper elements that were on the board for the film.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, you're kind of like, because you're thinking like, oh, it's the first one was such a silly, cheesy film. They're not going to have any story to draw from this. And none of the main characters from the original are really in the film. Jack Black's in there, but legitimately, the only reason he's in the film, I believe, is to set up another sequel.
Oh, okay.
A third Goosebumps film, because
All right.
he didn't do, legitimately did absolutely nothing. Every scene he showed up, he just went, ha, and then ran away. Ha, and it was like the last quarter of the film. I'm spoiling that for you, sorry.
Oh, man. Now I
yeah.
can't see it anymore.
And then he has like a brief little scene at the end where it sets up the third film. So he made his money.
Goosebumps 3.0.
Yeah, but in the first half of the film, they set it up almost the story of like the importance of family.
Oh, okay.
And family.
And at the end, they
And-
like kill the family.
no, they just everything just kind of goes blah.
Blah.
It's like they set up all these things and then stuff just happens.
Okay.
And they don't really explain it, and they don't really go
Reasons.
into they don't really go into reasons for why. And it's not like the first half of the film is like super well structured and
Yeah.
but it's well paced. They give time for character development. They give time for, good action to kind of like take place, and it's realistic in a way. In a way, it's hard to say that it's realistic when it's about a dummy dude coming out of a
man.
yeah. But things are happening, and it makes sense for why. It's a very simple film in the first half.
Okay.
And so I think because of that straightforward nature, and because things pretty much tie into themselves, you're able to like follow it along reasonably well. And I
Right.
would have given it like a decent, okay-ish rating, like C plus B minus kind of range, if it had stayed in that vein. But then the ending happens, and it's like they literally just were like, well, we got to end this somehow. Blah. And they just like had all these things happen, and it just resolves itself. The characters don't really go in any. There's like one minor story arc with the main girl because
Okay.
she's trying to get into college, and then there's the mom who's got this weird romantic thing going on with Chris Parnell,
Okay.
which doesn't make any sense. And so they kind of have their thing going on, and so it kind of has resolution there, but it literally feels like they're like, and done. We're just gonna end it all, and so it just gets really like bland. Yeah.
Bland gumps.
So I chuckled a few times, mostly at how ridiculous and stupid things were.
How many people were in the theater when you had to see it?
About 10.
Is that including you and your friend?
Yeah. But I would also say this has been out for a couple weeks. You
That's
know what
true.
I mean? So, and they have Halloween now and other stuff. So, and it was late on a Sunday night, which, usually that's pretty
Goosebumps 2 on a Sunday night.
yeah, it's pretty uncrowded. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I think it kind of, in a way, went above the bar of what I was expecting, and then by the end of it, ended up going below it.
Okay.
Which was kind of sad because I was like, you set this up nicely, and then it felt like you just kind of went wow and lost your interest or
Right.
didn't know what you wanted to do
Ran
with the
out of
story.
time.
Yeah. Cinematography, first half, I'm almost done, but like cinematography in the first half was good too. There was some really effective, kind of like almost unnerving type shots.
Oh, cool.
Which was cool because you're kind of like, ooh, even
Yeah.
for a kids movie that's like a little unnerving, And there was some silly goofiness, and it didn't feel very inventive.
What was that movie rated? Do you remember? Is it PG?
I believe it's PG.
PG?
There's probably no way it's rated G with some of the more scarier type things that are going on there. Yeah, PG. For scary creature action and images.
Well, wasn't The House with the Clock on its Walls PG?
Yeah. So
That's funny.
That should have been. That had some legitimate stuff in there that I'm like, if you're a little kid, you might really get scared about this. Yeah. So I don't know. It felt like first they did a great job. This is the last thing I'll say. First, it felt like it did a great job of substantiating this as a standalone film that had its own reason and purpose for being in existence. But then by the end of it, it felt like they just kind of phoned it in.
Was the only tie-in Jack Black to the first film?
Yeah, they talk a little bit about the events of the first film very briefly, and that's kind of one of the ways they learn about what's going on and how to fight it and stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they have their own like something gets set up at the end of the first film, which is kind of just there because of the plot line and how things happen. Like they had to write in the first film to get rid of the creatures. And they're like, we're not going to do that with this film. We're just going to make it a book that sucks creatures into it, you know, which is kind of, I believe, substantiated at the end of the first film because he like writes in it and then all the creatures get sucked into it. So this one, they're just like, no, we're just going to have a book that just sucks creatures in because it looks cooler. So I don't have to write anything.
Like Ghostbusters.
So they're, you know, and that's kind of where it started to fall apart was when they found that book.
Okay, I got you.
Or when they started using the book. Because it's like, as soon as you have that book, that's like, it defeats everything.
Yeah.
And they're just running around with the book in tow. Like, I don't know what I should do. And it's like, just use the book. You know what I mean? Like, literally sucks the creatures in. So, yeah, it just felt a little silly. And then things stopped making sense in a certain way. Like, some of the creatures that were created by the book would get sucked into the book, but then they were like things that were in real life that got turned into other things, but then the humans that got turned into other things wouldn't get sucked into the book. And I was like, well, how come that thing gets sucked in, but that human died? So again,
Joel, I just don't think you understand the mythology here.
Well, I understand it because
I don't think you do.
They can't show people getting like eaten by a book, you know. So I don't know.
Okay,
that was all I was going to say. But my rating for this, I'm going to give this a 69.
Hey-o.
So D plus.
D plus.
Yeah, it was going to be higher, but then that ending.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Well, hey, that's okay. That's okay. You can't win them all.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
But good to know. And I probably won't be running out to the Cineplex to see that anytime soon.
Not necessary.
But thank you so much for sharing that with the fine folks and myself.
I'm looking forward to Goosebumps Part 1. Part 3 of Part 1.
Well, when they release a new Goosebumps, it's actually going to retcon this whole second one.
Oh, that'd be great. So
and
it's a Part
just
1.
Go, and then
it's a Part 3, Part 1.
But it's 40 years later.
40 years later.
And
Jack Black is
Jack Black's got to fight the
grandson.
Yeti again. Yep.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy.
My father.
Things are going to get wild, folks. Things are going to get wild. Anyways, that's it for the show today. Thank you so much for tuning in, checking us out, whether you're watching us on YouTube, the vid channel, or if you're listening to us on the classic old podcast. A couple ways, again, to remind you can get connected on realreviewmedia.com. That'll connect you to our Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at Real Review Media. REEL, real spelled that way. And then also realreviewmedia.com. That's how you can get a hold of us if you want to give us some suggestions of some things that we should watch or check out or review. Those kinds of things. That would be spectacular. Feel free to go ahead and do so. Joel, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Bohemian Rhapsody, man, coming out this weekend.
I know, I'm excited for that. That looks good.
It's not getting great reviews, but you know, we'll hold out. We'll see.
I think it'll be a musical event. It'll be great.
It'll be good.
Yeah, we'll check it out. Anyways, it's been real.
It's been real.